CitraZoy is a zoysia grass that came out of the University of Florida's turfgrass breeding program, and here's the short version before I get into any of the detail. It's a medium fine bladed dark green zoysia bred specifically for Florida's disease pressure. It has the best resistance to large patch of any zoysia on the market. It holds its winter color better than any zoysia out there, and because it's new and tightly controlled in production, it performs more consistently lawn to lawn than the older cultivars people usually compare it to. The trade-off is full sun. Put it under an oak canopy, and you'll be disappointed. I'm Michael Geist, turfgrass certified, installing lawns across Oviedo and Seminole County since 2005. Today, I'm going to walk you through how this grass was actually bred, what it's genuinely good at, where it isn't the answer, why older zoysias get inconsistent over time, and then the soil underneath it, which matters more than the cultivar you pick. Let's get the record straight because there's bad information floating around on this. CitraZoy was developed by the University of Florida. It was patented by Sod Solutions, and it was released to the market by the University of Florida together with Sod Solutions and the Turfgrass Producers of Florida. You will occasionally see it credited to Texas A&M. That's a mix-up with a different grass called Innovation Zoysia, which came out of Kansas State, and Texas A&M. CitraZoy is a Florida grass bred by a Florida university for Florida conditions. That matters more than it sounds because most zoysias sold in this state were bred somewhere else for somebody else's climate and somebody else's diseases and then shipped down here to cope. Yeah, I get this question on site constantly, so let me be clear. CitraZoy is conventionally bred. It is not genetically modified. Nobody inserted a gene. It was created the old-fashioned way, crossing parent plants, growing out the offspring, and selecting the best performers over and over for more than 11 years before it was ever released. That's the same process behind most of the produce in your kitchen. The only thing modern about it is how rigorous the selection was. Here's the part I find genuinely interesting, and almost nobody explains it. It starts with parent selection. Researchers evaluated hundreds of zoysia accessions, genetic material collected from Japan, China, Southeast Asia, and existing U.S. cultivars, and they picked parents based on multi-year performance data before a single cross was ever attempted. They were hunting specific traits: cold tolerance, extended chlorophyll retention so the grass stays green longer into the cool season, disease resistance, fast establishment, a medium fine texture, and better drought performance. Then comes the cross-pollination, and this is where it gets hands-on. Zoysia pollinates by wind, so if you just let it go, you have no idea who the parents were. So researchers isolate the parent plants under mesh cages, and they physically control pollen movement, collecting it and transferring it deliberately. Out of that, you get thousands of hybrid seedlings, every one of them a slightly different genetic combination. Then the brutal part, culling. Out of those thousands, hundreds fail in year one. Dozens are left after year two. Only a handful ever reach final replicated trials. CitraZoy is what came out the far end of that funnel. And it wasn't culled in comfortable conditions. Those seedlings went into stress trials across very different environments. South Florida for humidity and disease pressure, Central Florida for shade and rainfall swings, Texas for drought and heat, and transition zone states for freeze cycles. And they were deliberately abused. Cold nights, low fertility, shade, drought, scalping, heavy traffic, and direct disease inoculation. They intentionally infected these plants with large patch and leaf spot to see what would survive. Only the individuals that held up across all of those categories moved forward. So when I tell you this grass handles a Central Florida summer, that's not a sales line. Its ancestors were selected by being tortured in that exact climate. One more thing that matters for what shows up on your lawn. Once the winning plant was selected, CitraZoy is propagated vegetatively, sod, plugs, sprigs. It's not grown from seed, which means every single piece of CitraZoy on the planet is a clone of that one original elite plant. That's what preserves genetic consistency, performance consistency, and color uniformity. And it's grown under certified sod production to maintain that purity. Hold on to that idea, because in a few minutes it's going to explain why older zoysia cultivars have gotten so unpredictable. Now, the single biggest reason I recommend it, if you own zoysia in Florida, the disease that will eventually come for you is large patch, a soil-borne rhizoctonia fungus that shows up in the cool, wet shoulder seasons our fall and spring and produces big circular dead areas that can take out huge sections of an otherwise perfect lawn. It is the number one complaint I hear from zoysia owners in this state. CitraZoy was bred with that disease as an explicit target, and it has the best large patch resistance of any zoysia on the market today. In the University of Florida's evaluations, large patch has never been observed on CitraZoy. I want to be careful and precise because that's a strong claim. Never observed in their trials, not somewhat resistant. That is a different level of protection than the older cultivars offer, and it's the difference between enjoying your lawn and constantly treating it. The second big advantage is the one your neighbors notice from the street. CitraZoy has the best winter color retention of any zoysia grass on the market. Every warm season grass slows down and fades when it gets cold. That's normal dormancy. And in Zone 9B, we get a version of it every year. The question is how washed out it goes and for how long. CitraZoy holds chlorophyll longer and delays the dormancy triggers tied to day length and temperature, so it stays greener through cold snaps. And I can tell you what that looks like in the real world, not just in a trial plot. We have a CitraZoy lawn at 470 Hillendale. We came through a stretch of about a week with nights in the 30s and 40s and days only in the 60s and 70s by the kind of run that bronzes most zoysia in this area. That lawn held excellent color, no bronzing. The replacement sod we'd put in matched the established turf, and the canopy stayed uniform across the whole lawn. That's my own eyes on my own install, and it matched exactly what the research said it would do. On texture, CitraZoy is a hybrid of Zoysia matrella and Zoysia japonica. The matrella side is the fine, tight, luxury-looking zoysia. The japonica side is coarser but tougher and more vigorous. CitraZoy lands in between a medium fine blade, finer than a Meyer type, but not as fine as a pure matrella. What that gives you on the ground is a dense, tight carpet with real vigor behind it and less thatch pressure than some of the older varieties. It also spreads laterally more aggressively than Empire or Geo, which is part of why it establishes and knits together faster, and it takes a real mow stripe beautifully. For reference, the CitraZoy lawns we maintain get cut with a TrueCut C27 reel mower at about an inch and a half, sometimes a touch lower. That's the finish this grass is capable of, and it's why I put it on signature front lawns where the striping has to read from the curb. Now let me tell you where CitraZoy is the wrong answer, because a sod farm's website won't lead with this: sun. CitraZoy is slightly more shade tolerant than the japonica cultivars, but less shade tolerant than the fine matrella zoysias. In practice, it needs full sun. If your front lawn sits under a mature live oak canopy, this is not your grass, and I'll tell you that on the site walk. Xeon is the zoysia that handles filtered shade. A shade-selected St. Augustine like Seville or Citra Blue is often the better call under oaks. Second, and I want to correct something you'll see repeated online, including in some of my own older material. CitraZoy is not resistant to everything. It will get leaf spot. The University of Florida is clear about that. Its superpower is large patch resistance, not invincibility. Any grass in the wrong spot with the wrong water will eventually find a disease. Picking the right cultivar buys you a big head start. It does not replace correct mowing and correct irrigation. Here's something I've watched play out over 20 years in this trade, and it's my read on it as an installer. Cultivars like Empire, Palisades, Xeon, and Geo have been in production 15, 20, 25 years or more. And over that kind of timeline, a couple of things happen to a clonal grass. First, genetic drift. Even though sod is clonal, plant clones slowly accumulate somatic mutations, small genetic changes that appear in individual sections of a field. When a farm expands its mother fields using material taken from a drifted section, those changes get baked into the production stock. Over decades, you get variation, coarser or finer blades, different cold responses, different disease susceptibility, shifted color and density, uneven growth rates. That is my explanation for something I see constantly: two Empire lawns installed the same year in the same neighborhood that behave nothing alike. Second, off-type infiltration. Over years, fields pick up volunteer Bermuda, mutated zoysia off-types, and other cultivars creeping in at the edges. You often can't see it on a fresh pallet. It shows up when it matures in a home lawn. Third, farm-level environmental selection. The same cultivar grown on different farms, in different soil, under different fertility and different sun, gradually adapts differently. So you effectively end up with several versions of the same grass in the marketplace. And fourth, the older cultivars were released before the tighter certification protocols existed. CitraZoy avoids most of this simply by being new and tightly controlled, short, young, clean foundation stock, audited production fields, minimal drift, minimal off types. That's an unglamorous advantage, but it's the reason a CitraZoy lawn tends to look and behave like the last CitraZoy lawn I installed. I want to be straight with you that this section is my professional read on why field performance varies. It's not a University of Florida publication. The underlying phenomena are real and well known in the industry. All right, everything so far has been about the grass. Now I want to spend a real time on what actually determines whether your install succeeds because in my experience, the cultivar is maybe 30% of the outcome and the soil underneath is most of the rest. You can put the best grass in the world on badly prepared ground and watch it struggle. I've been called out to fix plenty of those lawns and the sod was never the problem. Here's what most people have never been told. Water does not move easily from one soil texture into a different soil texture. When you stack one kind of soil on top of a distinctly different kind of soil, water doesn't flow smoothly across that boundary. It stalls and builds up at the interface. In soil science, that's a perched water table, and the layering that causes it is exactly what happens on a lot of sod jobs. Somebody shows up, dumps 2 inches of dark imported topsoil or a heavy muck blend on top of our native Florida sand, lays sod on it, and it looks fantastic for about 6 weeks. Then the rainy season arrives. Water moves down through that top layer, hits the boundary with the sand underneath, and stops. Now you have a saturated zone sitting right in the root zone, and roots don't chase water downward because they don't have to, so they stay shallow. Saturated soil plus shallow roots plus Florida heat is how you get disease decline and a lawn that dies the first time it's genuinely stressed. And the homeowner blames the grass. So here's how we do it instead. Our underlayment blend is 70% sand to 30% compost, and that ratio is deliberate because it's built to match our native soil texture rather than fight it. And here's the part that matters most. We incorporate that blend into the existing soil rather than laying it on top as a separate layer. No abrupt boundary means no perched water table. Water moves down through the profile continuously the way it's supposed to instead of stopping at a line 2 inches down. The University of Florida's establishment guidance is to incorporate organic matter into sandy soils, and that word is doing a lot of work tilled in, not stacked on. Why amend at all? Because native Central Florida sand drains beautifully and holds almost nothing, and not water, not nutrients. Compost fixes that. It puts real organic matter into a soil that's starved of it so the profile can hold moisture and nutrition between rain events, and it feeds the soil biology that makes those nutrients available to the plant. But at 70% sand, the profile still percolates fast. That's the balance we're chasing, and it's specific to this place. When a Central Florida afternoon dumps 2 inches of rain in an hour, that water has to move through and keep moving. Significant organic matter and still drains quickly, holds what the grass needs, sheds what it doesn't. UF also puts ideal pH for Florida turf between 6.0 and 7.0, which is why we test instead of guess. The other half of good prep is level. The precision grading pass is the skeleton of the lawn, slopes shaped away from the foundation and beds, low spots filled, crown reestablished before a single pallet comes off the truck. A properly graded lawn drains evenly, so you don't get the low corner that stays wet and grows fungus while the high side burns. It irrigates evenly, and if you want that true real mow finish, you have to have level because a real mower scalps every high spot on an uneven lawn. Level isn't cosmetic, it's what makes everything after it work. On install day, sod is cut the morning it's delivered and goes in the ground within 24 hours of harvest. Sod is a living thing that's been cut off from its roots. It's on a clock. UF's guidance is to lay within 24 hours, and that's the standard we hold. Our process is 8 steps every time: site walk and cultivar assessment, old turf removal and soil prep, precision grading and drainage, an irrigation pre-check where we map heads and audit coverage before anything is laid, the field fresh lay and roll, a written establishment protocol, a 30-day watch, and a written handoff with your first mow spec. We lay staggered, tighten every seam, hand trim around beds and irrigation heads rather than slicing later, and roll for true soil contact. Air pockets under a slab are dead spots waiting to happen. Honestly, Most sod failures don't happen while we're laying it, they happen in the 30 days after. UF's guidance is short, frequent irrigations through the first week to 10 days. The goal is to never let those roots dry out while they're bridging into the soil, which is a completely different pattern than watering an established lawn. So you get a written day by day watering calendar matched to your controller before we leave the driveway, and we stay involved with field checks and root pull tests during the window. Mow too early and you tear a root mat that hasn't bound. Put down a pre-emergent too soon and you stall establishment, both avoidable with a phone call. Pricing, plainly, we install Zoysia, CitraZoy, Trinity Xeon Empire, starting at $2.15 per square foot installed. St. Augustine cultivars start at $2 per square foot installed. That includes old turf removal, grading, the soil work, field fresh pallets, hand trimming, and 30-day establishment support. Site conditions and irrigation work can move it, which is why every estimate comes off an on-site walk, not a text message. So, to bring it home, CitraZoy is a University of Florida grass bred over 11 years and stress tested across 4 climates with the best large patch resistance and the best winter color of any zoysia out there, and it wants full sun. But whichever cultivar you land on, get the soil right first. Blend your amendments into the native soil instead of layering them on top. Keep the profile percolating and get it level before anything goes down. If you're in Oviedo, Winter Park, Winter Springs, or anywhere in Seminole County and you want a turfgrass certified set of eyes on your lawn, call us at 407 687 3322. I'm Michael Geist with Yardworks, licensed, insured, turfgrass certified, soil first since 2005. Thanks for watching and take care of that soil. The grass takes care of itself.